served on the Pontifical Council for the Family now, which of course is called the Dicastery for the Laity and Family Life under 2 popes.
I did.
It's amazing, amazing. How does, the Holy Father's stance on life, how does that impact the American legal system, if at all?
I think it does. Number one, it helps parishioners understand the importance morally of this question. It's not just another legal issue. And number two, for Catholic lawyers, it invigorates us. We feel not quite so alone out there in the battle for life. So,
and you know that some say that more could have been done, that Dobbs wasn't enough, that in 2022 there really was another opinion that could have done a little more, gone a little farther. Is that really true? Is there more?
Well, certainly Professors John Finnis and Robert George filed a fabulous brief showing how at the early common law that human life was protected and that the court should take the position of personhood, that unborn children are persons. That was a ruling, of course, of the Roe Court, that they were not persons under the 14th Amendment. That issue, I believe, and in fact I'll be defending this position in the Second Circuit next month, is in fact now something that we can debate in court again. The Roe opinion's been overturned, and so I'm involved in a case where we're claiming, I believe correctly, that viable unborn children at least are constitutional persons and entitled to the protection of law.
So then you really agree that now we can have this conversation where we couldn't before?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Teresa, what do you think the conditions are, for the Supreme Court to maybe take up another challenge to abortion?
Well, actually, they've got 2 cases this semester. Shows you I'm a professor. But they have 2 cases coming up this session. One, of course, is a case about the FDA regulation of mifepristone, which is part of the medication abortion. And the second is whether or not state bans, like those in Texas and other states, trump the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. That's an important question because when the Supreme Court said we're returning this issue to the states and the Biden administration came in and said, au contraire, we're going to force abortions on the Veterans Administration and every federal agency, it puts us in direct conflict. And so we have 2 cases already. There's a 3rd case for those viewers who are actually involved in praying outside pregnancy clinics that is challenging Colorado v. Hill, which allowed prosecution of people who pray outside these clinics and try to provide counseling to these women. The court has not decided whether they're going to take it or not, but they did order the other side to respond to the cert petition.
Yes, they did.
So we may actually see 3 cases coming out of the Supreme Court this session.
Right. It's been incredible to see the Supreme Court with the shift in composition really turn. In 2014, you had McClellan v. Coakley, which gave you a 9-0 win on free speech outside of abortion clinics, but it wasn't enough because you still have that other little piece that needs to come through for us.
Right.
When you're talking about the power of these federal agencies, a lot of that is power that many people think should be in Congress. What happens should there be a congressional codification of a federal right to abortion?
Well, in fact, I testified in front of a congressional committee on the Women's Reproductive Health Act of whatever. And in this court, it is likely that they would, in fact, uphold it, which means also that if we could get the 14-week ban or an 8-week ban, or if we could get congressional action that actually protected life, they're very likely to uphold that, too. The history is that the Supreme Court, regardless of the composition, post-Roe, has upheld every federal statute that's come before it. That's how we won the partial birth abortion case, actually. If you remember, we lost when it was Nebraska in front of the court, and then when Congress passed it, we won. I was delighted to participate in that case. I was counsel of record on the medical brief that Justice Kennedy quoted in that. So
Justice Kennedy, who has
since
2
left
sides,
the court.
yes, but also there are 2 sides to his record on life and also on marriage. Really quick, there was an oral argument this week that was incredible in the Loper-Bright case about the power of Congress. Do you really think that the Supreme Court might claw back some of those federal agency powers that are so pro-abortion right now with a progressive administration, a pro-abortion administration?
It'll be a divided decision. I read parts of the oral argument. It's called the Chevron doctrine that says when there's a question that's within the agency's power, they ought to be able to decide it and the courts have to defer to it. But the questioning was very, very vigorous.
Oh, yes.
And it looks like they are certainly going to not allow agencies to make this sort of decisions. Remember the contraceptive mandate.
That's right, 10 years of litigation for the Little Sisters of the Poor.
Not a congressional decision. They gave it to the Department of Health. And so I think that would be an improvement in American law. I think it would restore part of the constitutional responsibilities of Congress, however dysfunctional it may be. So,
well, Teresa, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it and breaking this all down for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate being here.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to head back out into the field to Prudence and Catherine, who are on the National Mall right now, a very chilly National Mall, and getting ready to start the march. Hey, guys.
Hello. Yes, and I want to let our viewers know more and more pro-lifers are making their way onto the National Mall. We've already seen